So firstly, we need to understand these columns. Remember when we went through theory yesterday? So this was one of them. One of the subsidiary journals, and then I said you can also abbreviate it as what? CBR. So this is the same thing. Okay, so this is our CBR. They can ask you. Remember, we don't know which journal are they going to ask. How many journals did we learn yesterday?
7,
8. The last one was? General journal. Okay, so now I'm going to focus on this one just to show you how to record. Yeah? But now I want us to go through the columns quickly. This column is called document number. Remember, sometimes they can give you document number. Give me any document number for any document that we can use for Cashbook receipt from yesterday. Remember such document that we said we can use? Give me an example.
Cash invoice.
Cash invoice, yes. If they gave you cash invoice, yes, they're going to give you any invoice number. This is where we put those invoice numbers. Okay? Sometimes they give you the receipt numbers. Can you see that? So if they gave you, you will record them here. So this doc number, it means document number. Guys, obviously the date is the date. What is today's date?
21st.
The 21st. So it means if the transaction took place on the 21st, you are going to write what?
21st.
I can see you even feel demoted. Guys, let me talk about this column. Now, details. Remember, here we are selling, and sometimes we receive what? Cash. This means the source of cash. If we received cash, if you received from Sylvester, you're going to write what? Sylvester. This is where we got our cash from. Okay? But we need to be careful here. When we normally sell stock, they don't normally tell you to whom did you sell. They just say cash sales. Please, here you must write what? Cash sales. Don't write cash only. Maybe if you write sales, yes, you can write sales. But I prefer if you can write what?
Cash.
Write it down. Cash sales. So we need to make sure to get it. We write cash only, guys, no marks.
What? Because it could be what you see.
That's true. So it must be sales or cash sales. Are we together? Remember, we mark those things, guys. Make sure that you get full marks.
So do we still do the counting equation if we're doing this table?
You're talking about the test, or you're talking about here?
Eh? I'm talking in general, like with the transactions that they're going to give us to fill out this table, would we still have to do the counting equation for every transaction?
Yeah, but they cannot ask you for a count equation and say do this at the same time. No. A count equation can be a standalone question. Okay? But it can still come. Okay? Now, this fall means
Oil.
FOL. What is this? In full. FOL, in full. What does that mean? Folio. You call it what? A folio.
A what? Folio.
Yes. So, but this at the moment won't be that useful. You'll see by the time when we deal with the bank recon, which is accounting 1B, we're going to use a lot of this. But at the moment, don't worry about this folio, okay? It must be there as part of what? Of the format. Okay? Now, there's a column called analysis of receipts. And we've got a column called what? Bank. So let me talk about this first. Firstly, just know that bank is the main account. Bless you. Bank is the main? What do I say by main account? It means whatever cash we receive, we are going to deposit it into the. So meaning you will see whatever I receive here will end up into the bank. This is what we are going to do when we start recording. Okay? But let's check the relationship between bank and analysis. The first point, you need to know that analysis of receipt is used to record transactions which took place on the same day. For example, let's say for example, on the 1st, just for example, on the 1st, you received money from Sylvester, I'm just giving an example, for 10,000. You're going to put it here. First. So meaning before we go to the bank, we go to, it's like coming to Varsity College, you must first go to How train station. Before you can go wherever you want to go, okay? Now, let's say on the same day, James gave us cash. Of how much? Of 5,000. Can you see that? These transactions took place on the same day. That's why this one was not transferred to the bank on its own. Because it has to wait for all the transactions. So if I had 20 transactions on the 1st, I'll wait and put them one by one under what? But here we assume that we only have 2. So meaning after that, I'm going to underline to show that those are the only transactions on the 1st. When we go to the bank, we don't go and deposit 10,000. We deposit how much?
15.
Can you see the duty of this column? So you don't have to transfer them one by one. So you need to make sure that you know how to do this. So check the date. That's the first thing that I'm going to show you now. If there were 20, I'll wait after the 20th one. I underline. I add all of them, transfer the total. Because if you don't do this, you're going to lose marks for this when we mark. Because I don't expect to see any 10,000, 5,000 here. So if you give me 10,000 here, I can't mark. You give me 5,000 here, I can't mark. I want to see what? 15,000. Are we together?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is the first situation.
So wait, sir, sorry. What happens if it's the only one?
If it is the only one, for example, let's say this one was on the 1st, and this one is on the
Second.
This is how it will change. I'm not going to underline here. Okay? I'm going to, this is 5 by the way. I'm going to say, okay, it's on the 1st. I'm going to only underline that one because it's the only one on the 1st.
Yeah.
And transfer it is how much?
10,000.
I must come to this one. I'm going to only underline and transfer how much? Can you see the difference?
So basically all amounts go to the analysis first before that.
That's true.
Okay.
But there are special cases where we have to go to bank directly, but I'm going to show you that. But for now, I just want you to check the date thing. Separate days, transferred one by one. But please underline to show that it is the only one on that day. If there were 2 of them, you underline after the second one. If there were 5, and you add. But here, you can transfer one by one because they are not on the same date. Are we together?
Yes.
That is the main function of analysis of what? And it makes sense. Think about Varsity College. You pay, let's say you give them 5 rand for photocopy. They call me and say, Sylvester, come here. Here is the 5 rand. Please go to the bank and deposit this 5 rand. I go to the bank and I deposit. When I come back, they say, Sylvester, here's 2 rands. Please go back. Can you see? Does it make sense? They normally wait. At the end of the day, they go and deposit. And again, you save costs in a way, going up and down. So that is the nature of what? Analysis. Now, let me show you the next situation. Sometimes, remember, this is the money that we receive, let's say, on the counter. Like when you go and pay on the counter, that's the money that we receive. But sometimes some clients don't come and pay at the premises. They go to the bank and directly deposit in the bank. Can you see you did not receive the money on the counter? So meaning the money cannot come? It must go directly to?
The bank.
For example, Sylvester on the 1st didn't want to come to Varsity College and pay. He went to the bank and directly deposit. So it means you'll find here it's going to be what?
0.
Because I did not receive it at the counter. It just went directly to? So the 10,000 will come here directly. It will look like this. So you need to check this, the way they give you information directly. Meaning it was deposited into the bank directly. So it will come this. That's why there's nothing here. If you put it here, I can penalize you. But you only have to check that magic weight directly into the bank. But we still have to take some exercises. That is the second situation. Of what? Analysis. But sometimes the question can insist. They can tell you that we only go to the bank on this particular date. Let's say they say we go to the bank on the 25th and the 30th. Meaning any date before the 25th, you cannot transfer those amounts one by one to the bank. You must wait till what? The 25th. Add them together. Transfer to the bank, like I showed you there. Does that make sense? So the question can insist, always read information before you start writing, guys, because you can lose marks at the end of the day. Okay? So make sure that you check that situation. So the date will always be given to you. They can insist, read carefully. And otherwise you're going to use the way you understand it, the way I showed you, and you're going to lose marks. Only to find that they only said you can only go and deposit into the bank on the 25th. But you transferred on the 15th. Huh? You're going to lose marks. Any question for that?
So is it also possible for them to tell us the dates when the amounts can be transferred?
This is what I'm trying to say.
Right?
Yes.
With, by giving us also like different amounts, like you stated before, they can be like 5 transactions on the same day, right?
Yes.
But they should all be deposited after all of them.
That's true. So you must ignore those. If they are all on the first, meaning you cannot say after the first and you underline. You must wait till the day that they said you must go to the bank.
Oh.
Can you see now? So those are the special cases. But if you don't have those other information, you must just do it the way I showed you. Same date, this is how we do it. Can you see that? Yes. But if they insist on that day, please forget about the procedure. Just wait for that day and transfer to the bank. But I'm going to show you with what? With the question. Are we together?
Yes.
Remember, I'm just giving the theory so that by the time when you record, I don't want you to be surprised and say, why? I want you to say, okay, at least.
So what did you say the folio was called again?
The folio, I said for now, this one, it's not going to be useful. We're going to use it by the time when we deal with the bank reconciliation statement.
Oh.
Yeah, but for this one, don't worry about it for now, okay? The folio. Can I explain other columns?
Yes, sir.
No problem. Let me erase this so that you cannot be confused. Remember, this was just to highlight the fact. Okay? Now, debtors. I think the minute you see a debtor under the CBR, this means you received money from what? A debtor. So the question will say a debtor paid his account. So you must come and record under what? Debtors control. Are we together? So if they say we gave them discount after they paid us, you must take off that discount, and the amount that you put here must be after what? Discount. But it will depend on what? This is the easiest thing. And remember, do not calculate VAT. You can write it down here. Do not calculate VAT on the amount that you record here. Who can tell me why? Because debtors, when we sell to them, and remember I said when you sell to debtors, especially the goods, you charge VAT. But why am I not calculating VAT now? Let's say they say a debtor paid 5,000. That 5,000 must just come here. Don't calculate VAT, don't do anything. So why do I have to ignore VAT at the moment? Okay, it's because we calculated VAT by the time when we sold to them. So if you calculate VAT again here, it's going to be a double taxation. Does that make sense? Remember, we calculate VAT by when we sell to them for the first time. We sell to them on credit, they become our debtors. We include VAT. But now, when they pay, do not include VAT, because do not calculate VAT because the VAT has been calculated before. Are we together?
Yes.
So, no VAT on the payment on accounts. You can write this down. So if a debtor pays his account, do not calculate VAT. The same applies when we pay our creditors what we owe to them. No VAT. Like I said, because VAT has been calculated by the time when we sold to them for the first time, so we cannot calculate VAT again. So no VAT. You're not surprised for me to put output VAT here, not input VAT. Why don't I put input and I put output in this book?
Because not in that.
So here we are. Selling. Remember I said associate output VAT with the selling, input VAT with the, even though there are special cases where you need to know how to reverse. So you will always find output VAT in this. Because we're going to sell and we need to calculate what? VAT. Now, here I want you to write this. The sales which you put here must always exclude VAT. So the sales must always exclude VAT. That's why I've got a VAT column. Meaning if they give me the amount of sales including VAT, what do? I calculate VAT, put it in its own column, and then the remainder will be what? Sales. So the amount that you put here must always be without what? That's why I showed you how to calculate VAT. Inclusive, VAT, exclusive. So here we need the VAT exclusive amount. Do not put sales including VAT. If they say sales is including VAT, what must you do? You take out VAT and you put the amount here.
So why do we have the output VAT column if the debtors column already includes VAT?
But remember, this is just a column for debtors. This is just a column for output. So if we calculate VAT on this, it means I was supposed to put that VAT here. The point was, when you are paying a debtor pays you, do not calculate VAT and record here. You're not going to have anything here. These are just standalone accounts. For example, output VAT. Obviously, when we sell, we need to calculate what? So that VAT will be appearing under what? Yes. So this VAT is just for those items where we're going to calculate what? Are we together? Now, there's an account called, or a column called sundry accounts. Sundry account, I prefer to call it other accounts or miscellaneous accounts. These are, sometimes you're going to find an account, but when you check the column here, that account does not have a column. Is then that you're going to use what? Sundry. For example, let's say I've got an account in the name of equipment here. Do you see equipment here? So meaning I'm going to record it under what? Sundry. So it will depend on the transaction and it will depend on what you sold. So that account will come under sundry. So if the account was equipment, we're going to write equipment here. But this follow is important, I'm going to explain it. And the amount of equipment here. But again, when you record the amount here, this amount must exclude VAT again. So here, if you can see this column must exclude VAT, it means here you must include what? VAT. I want you to get this situation. So the main account will always include VAT, but it will make sense by the time when we calculate. And the same applies here. You need to exclude VAT, but I'm going to show you how to deal with that. Okay? So remember, at the moment, I'm just trying to explain the columns. You must know how to use them, because otherwise you're going to lose marks. Please ask questions if you don't have questions. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to explain the folio. This folio is important, but not this one at the moment. Because this one is for what? Accounts. I'm going to explain what are we going to record there. Can I explain them? Let me ask you a question. How many groups of accounts do we have? 5. Name them. Assets, incomes, liabilities, expenses, owner's equity. Okay? Now, the following. assets, liabilities, and owner's equities. They are called balance sheet accounts. Balance sheet accounts. Be careful. Sheet. Eh? They are called balance sheet accounts. What are the remaining groups? Expenses and incomes. These are called nominal accounts. So you need to know them, like no one is going to tell you, so but it's easy to remember them. So these ones are called balance sheet because they are used to calculate or to compile balance sheet. And these ones are called nominal. Now, as you can see, balance sheet. This starts with what? A B. This one starts with what? So meaning you must know your account. For example, let me give you an example. Let's say we have got equipment, for example. Let's say we sold equipment. So that equipment, I'm going to write it here as what? Equipment. I'm just giving an example. I'm going to write equipment there. So I must ask myself a question. What is equipment to us according to those 5 groups? Assets. So meaning equipment falls under assets, under this group. So meaning equipment is our balance sheet account. So it means here I'm going to write B. If it's the first account, I'm going to write what? B1. Can you see how do we write those folios there? It depends. You must know this. If it was part of this, I'll write what? N1. As long as it's part of this, B something. I know sometimes maybe you can have B2, B3, because sometimes maybe you don't study the same account. But the fact that you have got B, I'm impressed. You know what are they. So I want you to look at that. Remember, if they don't tell you to ignore the folios, do not ignore them. Write them. If they don't want them, they will say what? Ignore the folios. In a way, like reference number for that account. It's an account number in a way. So if I'm using computerized system, I can just go and put B1. The account just comes like that. Can you see now? Yes. That's how we reference it. Will you remember that? Yes. But I'm going to show you with an exercise. So for now, I'm going to take an exercise.